There is a ton of young talent on that roster. All right, welcome back. It's the Breer Report for July the 15th. We're still about a week out from training camp ramping fully up. We'll have rookies reporting this week, but teams will be in the practice field shortly. And that means it's time to go through some of the contractual situations. Today is the deadline for franchise tagged players to be signed to long-term deals. There's only one of those situations out there today. That's Trey Smith's situation in Kansas City. We'll see how that one plays out. But we do have three topics to get to. All of them relate to contracts. And our first one for today, for July the 15th, is Garrett Wilson signing a 4-year, $130 million deal with the New York Jets. This one, to me, is pretty self-explanatory. New coach Aaron Glenn comes in. New GM Darren Muji comes in. There is a ton of young talent on that roster. Even though they're the longest playoff drought in the NFL, there's a lot more to work with for Aaron Glenn here than there was when he joined Detroit as part of his Dan Campbell staff in 2021. And I would expect that this is just the first piece of maybe a number of contracts to come over the next year or so with the young talent on that roster. Quinnen Williams has already signed long-term. Quincy Williams has signed long-term. He could wind up getting another contract. Jermaine Johnson, Sauce Gardner, Ollie Vera Tucker, eventually Olu Fashanu, Breece Hall. There are a lot of names on that team that need to be taken care of. Now, as for what this may mean for Garrett Wilson himself in the receiver market, obviously Wilson, the 10th overall pick in the 2022 draft, guess this in the first year he is eligible. I think it's reflective of where he is in the eyes of the new staff, that they were able to get eyes on him in the spring, work with him through the spring. He did not have the year that I think everybody was expecting him to have in his third year as a pro. Things weren't perfect between him and Aaron Rodgers, but now with his college quarterback, Justin Fields, coming in, he's coming off of a strong spring. It's reflected in the contract. And then as for what it means for the receiver market, it's another receiver contract that is up there in the 30s. It's close to what DK Metcalf got in Pittsburgh. And it could affect another former Ohio State receiver in Terry McLaurin. I was going to say former teammate. They didn't cross over in Columbus. But Terry McLaurin's deal, it could give some color to where the Washington Commanders are going to have to go with Terry McLaurin, since McLaurin is a more accomplished receiver than Wilson. Even though he is older, certainly it cements the idea that Terry McLaurin should be well into the 30s in his new contract. McLaurin, of course, with the Commanders going into a contract year. All right, our second topic also concerns the receiver position and an interesting receiver situation in San Francisco. Juwan Jennings, who's been a very important piece of the team over the last couple of years, might have vied for Super Bowl MVP honors a couple of years ago had the Niners been able to beat the Chiefs in the big game. He wants a new contract, failing a new contract. He wants to trade. Whether or not that happens, I'd be surprised. This is an example of the Niners getting ahead of this situation by giving him a short-term extension a year ago, and now those numbers obviously look smaller because of inflation in the market. So how do you solve this? Do you sign Jennings to a long-term deal? Do you give him a little bit more in the here and the now to make him happy? They have a lot of moving parts at the position. Obviously, Deebo Samuel has been traded. Brandon Ayuk is coming off of a torn ACL. Ricky Pearsall, promising rookie year as the team's 2024 first-round pick, coming back for his second year. So because of Ayuk's injury, because of Deebo's departure, because of Pearsall's inexperience, Jennings is sort of a rock for them coming back at that position, somebody that they feel they can rely on. I don't blame him for taking advantage of being in that position where this is probably as important as he's going to be to that team. And so does he get a new contract? I'd be surprised if he got a big new contract because of the way they've already invested there in Ayuk, because they do have Pearsall as a first-round pick on the roster. They've got a young guy in Jacob Cowan they really like. And then, you've got, we'll see what they get from Christian McCaffrey, but a premier player coming back off of an injury in McCaffrey who looked great in the spring. And then obviously an all-pro in George Kittle at tight end. I would suspect that they're going to be able to find some sort of solution here. I don't think he's going to be traded. How you find that solution, we'll see. Maybe it's with incentives in his contract for 2025. I'd be surprised if this ended with Jennings getting some sort of blockbuster deal. Finally, our third topic, the TJ Watt situation. This, I think, ties back to what's happened to the edge rusher market over the course of this offseason. And what Myles Garrett was able to get in Cleveland, going back to January during Super Bowl week. If you remember, he very much this is not about the money. He wanted out of Cleveland. He winds up getting a $40 million per year extension, which erases, I guess, some of the concerns that he had with continuing his career with the Browns. Danielle Hunter, who is on his fourth contract now, does a short-term extension with the Texans. And of course, Max Crosby does another extension with the Raiders. Both those guys are older players. So all of that has complicated the landscape for TJ Watt. None of those three players that I just mentioned, not Garrett, not Crosby, and not Hunter, are in their mid-20s going on to second contracts. These are older players like TJ Watt is. And so this, situation, you look at it from the standpoint of Watt, he should at least be in the mid-30s where Crosby and Hunter are. And you can understand why he would want to be where Garrett is, up near $40 million a year. And further complicating it is the fact that the Micah Parsons thing is still undone out there. On the Pittsburgh side of it, of course, this is a guy on the wrong side of 30. This is a guy who's had some injury issues over the last couple of years. So you want to protect your franchise as well. I don't know how they solve it, but in the end, I think there's too much mutual interest in getting something done here for there not to be some sort of solution that the Steelers and Watts people can find. Again, I don't know where that solution is. This would be another one where it's kind of difficult to find where the middle ground would be. But part of the reason why the Steelers go and sign Aaron Rodgers and walk away from Justin Fields and go and get Jalen Ramsey and go and get DK Metcalf and go and get Darius Slay and lean so much in to being a win now outfit is because of the older players they have in that roster and because they feel like this is their shot to really take a swing at winning with these guys before they have to tear the whole thing down. And so getting rid of TJ Watt would be would find the face of everything that they've done this offseason. Meanwhile, for Watt, he's waited all of these years. He's going into year 9 now. He's waited all of these years to have this sort of shot at going and pursuing a Super Bowl. I can't imagine that he would want to walk away from it and go take his shot somewhere else. So my guess is they get something done. It's not in a great place now. But remember, a few years ago when he did his last contract, that one went right up to the very beginning of the season. He signed on the Saturday before the season started. My guess would be they'll find a way to get something done. All right, appreciate you guys coming out. I can't wait to get back out on the road. As for this week, we have one more mailbag coming. Then next week, we're full bore. You'll have all your normal Breer reports, all your normal mailbags, plus we'll have takeaways from all the camps that I visit. Should visit about 25 of them. At one point or another, this is my promise to you, we will cover all 32. So whoever your team is, we will have you covered. Can't wait to dive in. Hope you guys will come with us. We will see you guys a little later in the week for the mailbag.